Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Meet Me at the Spot. I'm your host, Holly, and this week I am so excited to share my conversation with Martin. Martin is a mental health advocate and content creator who openly shares his journey with anxiety and depression to help others feel seen, supported, and less alone. Through his growing online presence, he creates safe, relatable spaces for people to talk about healing, boundaries, emotional wellness, and the real life struggles that often go unspoken. Martin's work is rooted in vulnerability, compassion, and a belief that everyone deserves to be reminded they're not too much, they're human. Whether through affirmations, reflections, or raw honesty, he's building a community where people can rest, grow, and heal together. I think at a time that we are in now, these conversations become very important. How do we take care of ourselves before we're able to take care of others? So let's go ahead and jump into part one of my conversation with Martin. Welcome, Martin, to the podcast. I am really, really excited to have you here.
Thank you.
So, I know a little bit about you because I've been following you on social media for a hot minute. But for the listeners, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, what you're all about.
So my name is Martin, Martin Duane. I have a Threads account. It's Maertin. I talk about mental health. I talk about anxiety, burnout, and depression. I mean, I think in today's climate, I think all of us have maybe had all three at some point. And so I have a page where I try to spread positivity. Sometimes the messages that I share are often messages to myself, and it's just nice to go on Threads and see such a safe community, a warming community of people that are just like you, that have anxiety, depression, sometimes burnout. It's nice to have a safe space.
Yeah. I'm so obsessed with Threads too for the same reason. I'm like, God, Threads is so nice to be here. So
I
nice to
agree.
be here.
Threads is the first social media app, and I've been, I mean, I had MySpace,
hmm
Facebook, everything, and for me, Threads is I think it's a safe place overall. Like I haven't really, at least in the spaces that I've been, I haven't seen like a negative piece of Threads. Of course, you have those one-offs, but to me, everybody on Threads is very talkative. Everybody's willing to comment. People you don't even know are just willing to have conversations with you. Yeah, I enjoy Threads.
Me too. It's so fun. So I like to ask all of my guests as a first kind of intro question is really what got you started in the work that you do and the social media presence that you have as well.
Yeah, so we're gonna get heavy.
Yes,
Uh,
right off the bat.
so last year, I won't say where, but corporate job, a lot of stress, a lot of things going on with me all at once. I had a corporate job and I was also I still am a business owner, in the sense that I was selling products on Amazon. And so trying to keep up with my own personal life and trying to keep up with work expectations, I felt like I hit a breaking point in myself and I didn't know what it was. I, but one thing I didn't know was that I wasn't eating. So for me, I'm somebody that whenever I get anxious, I don't typically eat.
Mm.
And in college, my friends would typically, "Hey Martin, go get something to eat. We know we have not seen you eat.
Mhm.
Go get you something to eat." And so I started losing weight. I wasn't able to focus at work. And typically, I'm somebody that I'm very mentally sharp. I remember what you told me yesterday. You came, you were wearing a yellow shirt. You, you said this at 3 o'clock, and I wasn't able to keep up in a work setting. Things they were saying things to me, and I wasn't remembering, and it was to the point that I was missing deadlines, and that's not me. Like I do not miss deadlines, and I knew then I needed to get help, but I didn't know what type of help. Like where do you go when you feel like possibly it's mental? Like I was getting at the time what I thought was stress headaches because
Mhm.
of anxiety so much, and one of my friends she is in school to be a counselor. She told me, well, you should go to your primary physician and just mention that it's possibly anxiety. You don't, whatever. And I was like, you can go to your primary physician for that? And no, nobody had ever told me you can go to your primary physician to talk about depression or anxiety. I thought we were only there like we got sick with the flu, we broke a bone or something. I was like, okay. So then once I went to my primary doctor, I ended up I got diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and depression disorder. And at the time, I did not believe the depression. I was like, are you sure? Depression, because I think at the time I was 20, 28, 27. And I was like, there's no way I'm this young and I have depression. And I ended up taking time off work. And during that time, that is when I found out about Threads. I got on Threads and I just really started talking about my experience with anxiety. Not really trying to become an influencer or anything. I was just trying to say, hey, these are the challenges that I have. And one of the things that I saw was that so many people resonated with anxiety and so many people resonated with depression that people I didn't even know. I mean, I started with 300 followers on Instagram, and then it quickly started going up, and now I think 13,000 on Threads. And I'm always amazed at the number of people that tell me that the post that I created helped them. Like that, it makes you feel good because you are just creating really posts that help yourself and things that just kind of give you courage and it's also helping somebody else. So that whole story, me figuring out that I had anxiety disorder is what made me want to get on Threads and talk about my experience.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I don't love that you had to go through that, but I do love that you took I was like, wow, that sounded so insensitive.
No, I
I
didn't take it that
love
way.
Okay, good. I was like, I love that you got burnt out and then got
Yeah.
anxiety and depression. No, I love that because it's such a vulnerable thing to talk about. And then to talk about it on the internet with a bunch of strangers. Sometimes for some people, they're like, it's less vulnerable because I don't know these people. But for
Yeah.
some, it's more
That's
vulnerable. It could back or
true.
forth, right?
That is true. That is true. That is
Yeah.
true.
And I think it's so important. And, uh, as someone who also has anxiety and depression,
Mhm.
I don't remember how I came across your post, just because probably the stuff that I interact with, the algorithm was like, you need
Mhm.
to meet
Mhm.
Martin, and you need to
Yeah.
be following them. And just every time you post, I'm like. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I'm spamming you.
I
uh,
appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, I just absolutely love the stuff that you post because it's real, it's honest, it's authentic.
Yeah.
And you're speaking about your own experience, and I agree. When people comment, they're like, "Thank you so much. Like that post was so helpful."
Yeah.
I get the same way. I'm like, I helped somebody.
Yeah.
I did the thing. And I am just like a sobbing mess. And it's just a really great feeling that you could help somebody in that way. And I think it's important now more than ever, especially. I mean, times are hard, and
Look.
right now times are
Tons of hard.
times are
In
wild.
in these times,
Yeah.
times are hard.
Yes. I feel like multiple ways about this. So I feel like there's going to be more people who get diagnosed with anxiety and depression and other
True.
related mental health disorders. I also feel like there's a lot of people who are going to be nervous to get those diagnoses. So like if the Affordable Care Act
Hmm.
gets repealed, which they keep talking about it and they never manifest it, but
Hmm.
who knows? We're living in a time that we have not been accustomed to. Uh, Anxiety and depression could and very well will be considered pre-existing conditions, which would either
Hmm.
disqualify someone from accessing health insurance or make their premiums like so high they can't even afford it. It's not
That's
affordable.
right. That's right.
Yeah, so uh, I'm honestly worried about that. As someone who on my little checklist of things that
Uh,
I have, right?
uh,
Anxiety and depression are listed on there. I'm curious to kind of what your thoughts on that are.
it one, it saddens me that some people don't. I would say this as a black male in the spaces and the communities that I come from. mental health is not something that's being taken seriously. Nobody ever sat me down when I was younger, and I showed signs of having an anxiety disorder when I was younger. Nobody ever thought, maybe we should, take him to a psychiatrist or take him to a counselor to see if he has an anxiety disorder. I was always a nervous child. Like I was always the one that was like, I don't think we should be doing that. And just looking now, um, I wish that more people had access to that. And that's one thing I try to do with my Threads account is share sometimes symptoms of anxiety that would make somebody want even just start the conversation with somebody. It doesn't hurt just go to the doctor. But to also hear that people won't have the access to help, and particularly for me to think about somebody, and I'm not ashamed to say this, I talk about this on Threads all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I take medication for anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
At one point, they were talking about, and I think you remember this, they were talking about getting rid of the SSRIs,
Mm-hmm.
right? People were calling them drugs. I mean, which in a sense, yes, it is a drug, but it's not heroin, right?
No.
I I have never seen anybody itching. Oh, I gotta go get my SSRIs.
No.
It doesn't happen that way. But as somebody that is taking the medication, and now at first I being ignorant and not knowing, I did think, okay, you take medicine for mental health, is this person crazy? But being on the other side and seeing that how much it has helped me, how much it has helped me think better, think clearly, even at some point figure out who I am to gain confidence to step into rooms when I was so anxious.
Mm-hmm.
I I think everybody should have access to that. I do. Not saying that everybody should be on SSRIs. I'm not a doctor, but what I am saying is that the opportunity itself to just go get the help that you need is something that we need more of. And I can tell you there are so many people that go undiagnosed, sometimes inflicting harm into other people because they're undiagnosed with various possible mental disorders or illnesses. Um, that it is so beneficial just for them to get help. And I hope that they don't take that away. I really don't. No,
Yeah, I had kind of forgotten that they were talking about that for a hot minute.
that
But
was
yeah, thank you for bringing that back up.
was that
No,
was
I'm
I
just
think it
kidding.
was last.
Yeah,
It might have been early this year. It might have been January. If it, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was recent. It was recent.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I do remember that. I'm like, cool, cool, awesome,
That
great.
that made my anxiety go high. Like that. You're taking away the SRIs. Now, mind you, there are other things that they could to give to people, like us, but that is something that helps people.
Yep.
Like if people take that and see where it really comes from is sometimes people that don't have anxiety, you don't have depression, and it's one of the things that I try to do. I try to make my post in such a way that anybody, whether you don't have an anxiety, you can still go, I may not have anxiety, but I see where they're coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to stand up for SSRIs when you've never had to take one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you got blessed with all the right levels of everything. Everything is working right. You've never had an anxiety disorder. You've never had depression, but it is real, and there are people out there that are actually struggling, and they need that. That is a real option for people.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the only option,
Yeah.
because sometimes they tell you, well, have you exercised? Have you, have you, are you exercising? It'll just go away after that. Yeah. All the problems you have, just run a mile. You'll feel better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love I'm so glad you brought that up because I love when people who don't have anxiety or don't recognize that they have anxiety, and the wildest things, and they think they're being helpful a lot of
They
times. It's
really do.
coming from a good place, so I try to be
They
patient.
really do. They really
But like, people in my life will be like, "What are you anxious about?" That's how anxiety works. There sometimes isn't a reason. It just happens. I'm just feeling on edge. Uh,
And for somebody, if you're watching and you don't have an anxiety disorder, sometimes it's not a specific thing. Like there are specific anxiety, like social anxiety, where
Mhm.
you get really anxious in front of people. I have a generalized anxiety disorder, so it could be really anything. And that is something that is real, that while you may not feel that, you may be able to go through life and your anxiety you're able to catch yourself through that. Somebody that is struggling with an anxiety disorder, they're not able to come back so easily after that. That is really the only difference. And the anxiety disorder for them sometimes can be life altering. It can cause them to overeat. It can cause them not to eat. It can
Mhm.
cause them to miss sleep because now you're up at 3 a.m. thinking about a conversation that happened 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Or
Or
10
you
years
know.
ago. Ah, there are conversations that happened like 10 years ago that I still play in my head and I'm like, oh my God, I was so stupid. Why did I say that?
Why did I say that?
10 years ago.
Why
Seriously?
why did I say that?
Who can The other people have moved on. I am a
Like, what are you
100%
talking
sure.
about? I don't even remember that. What?
And it's so wild. And I know, for me, I also have, general anxiety disorder and um it manifests itself for specific reasons, but also it'll be like I'm anxious and my spouse will be like, "What are you anxious about? Is there something specific?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I don't know. I don't
Sometimes you
know."
don't. Sometimes you really don't. You're
And
like,
then
I feel anxious. I don't know why.
right. And then you kind of get I know for me, like I get caught in a cycle because, for a lot of people who don't know, anxiety and depression really like to try to out climb the ladder.
Close. Yeah, they
And
are.
it's so when people say like, well, you should just go for a walk. And it's like, well, first of all, I have chronic pain. So going for a walk is not, an option that I can do. But even if it was, let's say that it was, my anxiety is like, you have to make sure you have music playing and this time and this time. And then my depression is like, or we could just lay in bed, babe. We could just lay in
Oh,
bed, cuddled. And then I'm getting anxious, like, but I really should do this thing. I really should. And then my depression's like, you lazy piece of crap. And
oh,
this bed some more.
the lazy word is so triggering.
Oh,
I make posts just on that. People with anxiety are sick and tired of being called lazy, and people
yeah.
with depression are being tired of called lazy.
Yeah.
It
We're
is a difference, people. It is not the same.
not.
It is, and
Yeah.
trust me, I understand. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I hear
And
you.
that, they climb onto each other and it's hard to get out of it. And
Especially
um,
depression. It
yeah.
it is not that is one thing I wish people would realize. It's not a snap of the finger.
Mm-mm.
Yes, you can go to the gym. Yes, you can get those endorphins.
Yeah.
But that is not going to just immediately cure the depression.
Mm-mm.
And it's hard to explain that to somebody again who you've never dealt with depression.
Yeah.
And depression is not just feeling sad.
Mm-mm.
It is not, somebody hurt my feelings today at work and now I'm really sad. Depression can last for weeks,
Mhm.
sometimes months.
Mm.
It oh, I wish that it was just an immediate thing for depression. Like, oh, you're done with it. Yeah, you're good.
Mhm.
You're good for the year. You won't have it again.
Oh yeah.
Put
Oh
that in a
God, that would
bottle.
be so nice for the whole year.
Yeah,
Oh,
put
oh
that in
my,
a bottle. Put that in a
yeah.
bottle.
I love that energy. No, yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand. They're like, oh, people get sad. It's like, yeah, no, people do get sad. And sometimes I get sad. Sad and depressed are very different for
You
me.
you know the difference. You know the
Yeah.
difference. Because I literally maybe this probably last month I started feeling really it was kind of burnout, which is
Mm,
leading into depression. Of just me. There I go. I was doing a lot work wise, personal wise. And I didn't get a chance to give my body rest, which
mm.
is what I need. My therapist always tells me, Martin, you need to give your body rest. And I have to realize I'm a Superman. And
No.
I need rest. And so even on my threads, my account, I wasn't posting as much as I typically would. But it was because I was giving my body, here I am running a page on mental health. telling people to get rest, and I'm not getting rest.
Right.
Um, so I had to take a couple of days and really think, okay, Martin, am I sad or is this depression? Okay, now no, this is depression. You need to actually sit down. You need to actually give your body rest. And and it's hard because you know this, when you have depression and you want to get rest, you get that voice in your head, oh, I'm lazy.
Hmm.
I want to get in bed, but now I'm lazy. And then
Hmm.
you feel bad. And then your worth goes down. You're like, am I lazy?
Hmm.
Am I? Am I not trying hard enough?
Hmm.
You think all of these things,
Hmm.
and it is so hard. It That's going back to my point with the
Yeah.
SSRIs.
Yeah.
It I am not a doctor, and I always say this, I am not a doctor. But I can only speak of what I've been through. And for me, SSRIs have changed my life.
Hmm.
I can tell you I am a happier man.
Hmm.
Um, my anxiety is to a point where it's manageable. Depression is better. I don't have that every day. But I'm able to realize a point where I'm able to say, okay, no, this is just me being sad versus this is me starting to feel depressed again. Being able to know that's growth. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know that.
Oh,
You,
it's huge growth. Yeah. And all of the things that you said, I'm like, oh my gosh, we are like one and the same. I swear to God, we're the same person. And it's like it's for me, it's so nice to hear you say it and to hear another person say it because it's like, right, that is a quote unquote normal feeling for someone whose brain is just wired differently.
And see, those are my people. Those are the ones that I love to interact with on threads because we honestly get each other. We
Yeah.
feel our struggles, and we talk about it freely. Yeah, I'm feeling depressed today.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a wild feeling because it can show up and anxiety, same thing. Anxiety and depression can show up in so many different ways for different folks and um the
That's
physical
almost the crazy, right?
symptoms and
Right.
yeah, the physical symptoms for me. So I was diagnosed with anxiety about 10 years ago.
Mhm.
I have known I've had anxiety for almost my entire life. In high school, I would get debilitating stomach pains. I was like hunched over, and my doctor was like, "Oh, I think you're lactose intolerant." I'm like, what? And I went over to my friend's house. We were just kind of doing some work or whatever, and her mom was making her own pickles and putting them in jars and everything. I remember this very distinctly. And she's a nurse, and so we were talking and stuff about my symptoms, and she was like, "I'm not your doctor, and I don't know all your medical history, but what it sounds like is you have anxiety. You have
Yeah.
anxiety." Um, and the first doctor I ever went to as an adult to try to get diagnosed with anxiety, told me, "What do you have to be anxious about at your age? The what's I don't understand what you would have to be anxious about."
I
I
hate that.
think, yeah, I know. She was like, "It's not anxiety. I think you have like something going on with your GI stuff. You're gonna need to send in a stool sample, blah blah blah," which in its own is really difficult. Like, and that's difficult in its own. And it came back normal. I didn't have a GI problem, but I was so turned off by that whole interaction that it took me probably another like 5, 6 years to go to the doctor and get an actual diagnosis. And when I did that and was listened to, and the primary care doctor was like, "I can tell that you're anxious just coming to this appointment. That
Right.
was anxiety for you. I can tell that just by you talking about
Mhm.
anxiety is anxiety producing for you." And that's when I really got a diagnosis and got on medication and
Mhm.
trying to find the right medication that worked for my symptoms. You'll have to tune in next week for part 2 of my conversation with Martin. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Meet Me at the Spot. I'm your host, Holly, and this week is part 2 of my conversation with Martin. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back and check that out, and then come right back here for part 2 as we jump right in our conversation.
How was your experience with medication? For me, the medicine they gave me for the typically the one that I take every day, I've been on it. That's the main one, but other people have had various experiences. Did you have to try multiple?
Yeah, so when I first got diagnosed, I was on Lexapro and I felt
Mhm.
it did a pretty good job. The hard part was for me, it took about 2 weeks, which medications generally
Oh,
do.
it's not instant. Yeah.
No, no, no.
That's all right. It's not overnight.
No, and the side effects for me are like I'm
Mhm.
like dizzy, I'm out of it and
You
things.
have headaches?
Yes,
Yeah.
headaches. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And at that time I was teaching. I was teaching middle schoolers, so that was fun. And I started weaning myself off of Lexapro because I knew at some point I wanted to have kids, and I had read online from a lot of people that it was a slow process to wean yourself off. Like you can't just stop taking your SSRIs
You're
because
not
it will
supposed to. Yeah.
mess you up.
Yeah.
I weaned myself off way too fast,
Okay.
and had like some really, really rough side effects. It was like starting Lexapro, but worse coming down.
Wow.
And then when I was trying to get pregnant, and my doctors were like, you have anxiety, and I hate to tell you, but pregnancy is probably going to induce more anxiety for you. Do you want to be on something? It's not going to harm the baby. We can put you on a low dose. I'm like, no, 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 I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Thankfully, my doctors, they checked in every appointment. They're like, how's your anxiety today? How's this going for you? And then after I had the baby, I was checked on often because I had anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was really great because I had horrific postpartum anxiety. It
Mhm.
it is so real. I was like, put me back on something, give me
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
but I can't be super dizzy and out of it for a couple weeks. I have a newborn baby.
Mhm.
And it was during the height of COVID. So it's not like I could have people come and
And
help.
that's already stress. That's you. Now we got COVID stress. Now.
Right. Right. Like I got COVID stress. Like I'm working at that time, I'm working in infectious disease. So like every day we're getting updates about things and I'm trying to educate people in my life. And most of them were really, most people in my life were very much like, do you know this about COVID? Do you know this? What
Yeah.
answers, can I tell my friend, you got vaccinated while you were pregnant? What was your experience? That kind of thing. But we have people in our not immediate circles, but our next level circles of people who are very much COVID deniers, anti-vaxxers, and it was stressful, right? So now my experience has been pretty good. I'm really, really thankful to have amazing an amazing primary care doctor uh, who listens, who
That's key that they listen.
validates. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, that
Yeah.
that could have saved me so much trouble, and I could have gotten a diagnosis and started on treatment so much sooner and could have saved so much time of my
What,
life.
what do you have to be anxious about? Like, come on now. Come
I
on.
I will never forget that. It was humiliating. And I'm like, I'm getting married. This was like when I was getting married to my first husband. I'm
Mhm.
getting married. I just got laid off from my job because the district I was teaching in, every year I'd get like laid off and not know if I was going to have a job in the fall. And we're like, 2 weeks before school and I still haven't heard anything. I don't know if I have a job. I'm supposed to be getting married. I don't know what. There's like so much going on. Oh, I mean, that's kind of normal for people to like have these kinds of things going on. You probably have a GI issue.
I'm so done. But like that,
Mhm.
that is really, and I hate to say it. I hate to say this, but that is very common Some
Mm-hmm.
doctors will play it off. I have heard that before. I'm
Mm-hmm.
lucky that my doctor did not, and he actually listened. But again, I'm sorry you had that experience.
Oh, no, I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, it was shitty, and I don't wish anyone to have that experience. And I hope that doctor can never find a bathroom when she has explosive diarrhea.
Mm, mm, mm. I'm not gonna stop it.
Let's see, sweetie. But that was the
Uh-huh.
last time I ever went to that practice. Ever again.
Uh,
Yeah.
you
I
know
was like,
what?
no, no.
So for me, I think they were like maybe like a mental health clinic or something that you can like just go in and not to check myself in, but to just get a diagnosis. And I remember at the time before I talked to my doctor, but I think before I had even found this doctor yet, I was just calling like d doctors that I knew like kind of specialized in mental health. And I called this one office here in I live
Hmm.
in Atlanta, and they it must have been July, June or July or whatever. And I'm like, hey, I don't know what is going on, but mentally, I don't think everything is okay. It may be anxiety. I'm really unsure. And she checked the calendar. She said, we don't have any appointments until early next year.
Hmm.
Um, do you want to wait? Here I am. I'm about on my breaking point. I'm like, ma'am, if I don't get help today, I might not have a job in a month.
Right.
And I mean, just to even say that, like to not even say, hey, here are other resources. If you really, if you're having struggles, you can call this hotline. It was
Mm-hmm.
we're booked out to the end of the year. You want me to get you in January?
Mm.
Some people don't value mental health, and there is so much stigma around mental health in general. Some people don't take it seriously. They think we're joking. They think we're just being dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
They think we have nothing to be anxious about.
Hmm.
Why are you anxious? Wait, you have nothing to be anxious about. Why are you depressed?
Yeah. You're so young. You have nothing to
Why,
be depressed
why,
about.
why are you depressed? It it
Oh.
it truly amazes me that people continue to say things like that. But also those people just they until you go through anxiety or you go through a depression of your own,
Mm-hmm.
you really don't know. I can try to educate you all day long.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna figure that out and what that really feels like and what it does to your body until you go through some sort. Not saying that I wish that upon people, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it comes to that whether something finally hit the fan for you and now you're going through a depression and you're saying maybe they were right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the energy to get back up, and when you know that, like when you have depression, you don't even want to get out the bed. You know that you have to, and you know that you probably need to.
Mm-hmm.
Don't Sometimes for me, I don't clean as much.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Why? You get in depression is not fun. It I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And everybody's depression disorder looks different. I don't think anybody is the same, but I wouldn't wish that on anybody. No.
No, it's very real, and I think sometimes people have this idea because there's so much shame and stigma that like something had to have happened. There had to be an event that triggered this. And it's like, no, I came from a good family, had, went to a nice school district, I had a lot of great things going for me. It's not something that just happened.
Mhm,
It's just the way my brain chemistry is.
mhm,
My brain is wired differently, and it doesn't have those same connections as everybody else's brains do that don't have anxiety or depression. Um, and so to say, like, what are you anxious about? Like, I don't, there's nothing, what?
But you know what? What I think about is me after the SSRIs, the version of me that, and now mind you, I had been somebody like I majored in communication studies. Like I was a speech major. Like I was always public speaking at school. So I was able to public speak, but somehow in the office setting, it gave me anxiety. I don't,
Hmm.
I mean, huge anxiety. And after getting on the SSRIs, I got to work and I was like, you mean to tell me people feel normal? You mean to tell me people aren't anxious in meetings?
Hmm.
Hmm, this is nice. What? I was almost waiting for the anxiety to come. I was like, I I'm not in danger.
Nope.
No, nobody's trying to hit me. Nobody,
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh, I am telling you, it changed my life.
Hmm.
You were just able to go through life and experience really life the way that everybody else goes through life, and they tell you, what are you anxious about? You're able to have a sense of calmness, and while not feeling like a zombie, right?
Hmm.
I think everybody is different in what they take, but I don't feel like a zombie. I don't feel like my energy's drained. I feel like I'm still myself. I'm just a less anxious version of myself, and I'm able to control my anxiety. I'm like, that's anxiety there. But I'm able to calm it down. Like,
Hmm.
nobody's trying to harm me right now.
Hmm.
No, no, nobody's trying to harm you. You're safe. You're
Yeah.
safe.
No, that's definitely, so real because, you know, everybody again has different ways of feeling their anxiety and depression, but like especially with anxiety, you're for me, it's the same thing. I'm like, I'm just waiting. I'm just having this feeling like something's about to happen.
It's gonna happen.
I'm like, and then same thing. I have the same thing. Like, how there are people who walk through life and just never have that like don't have that feeling. I'm
Lucky,
so sorry. What?
lucky,
You can
lucky,
go to the grocery store
lucky,
and not have anxiety about going grocery shopping.
lucky.
Tell me more, friend. What is how does it feel to be God's favorite? Like,
Um,
what the
you
hell?
and just to be able just to do, I mean, it could be anything, and just to be able to not have that in the back of your head thinking. And again, if you have an anxiety disorder, that is not something you can control. Yes, we can do all these breathing exercises, which to a point possibly can help, but the anxiety is still there, right? Now, mind you, I haven't come off of my SSRIs yet. I will get to the point eventually. But it's I just think about before that and being able to go, so this is actually normal.
Mhm.
This is what being normal feels like. Hmm. Okay. Well, I'm glad I went and got help.
Yeah, right?
I'm glad that I was an advocate for myself because life on the other side, me not eating, I mean, to the point when I had got anxiety, my hands would shake.
Hmm.
Like it probably wasn't visible to everybody, but to me, I knew, oh my gosh, my hands are shaking. I can feel my heart beating out of my chest. They're about to call on my name.
Hmm.
And to now me being able to be in rooms and be able to still voice my opinion. And I don't get as anxious. Or sometimes I barely even get anxious. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
I'm waiting for it to come. It's not gonna come today. Okay, it didn't come.
All right. Should I be anxious about that? No.
Should I wait for it to come? Is it? Oh, okay. Not today. Not today. Yeah.
And I know for me too, like the rational part of my brain knows, like, there's nothing I need to be worried about for this
No.
XYZ, right? Uh,
And that's the thing. We know
in
that.
the moment.
We
Yeah,
know that.
well, I know that. In the moment,
Mhm.
my brain is the rational part of my brain is like, I don't know how to help you. And after it, or even sometimes as I'm talking through it, I'm like, I recognize
Mhm.
this is not a thing I need to be feeling nervousness about or anxious about, right? It's just I can't in the moment, my brain doesn't let me be rational.
Now, did you have anxiety, like in school or taking tests?
Yeah, horrible test taker.
Me.
I also have ADHD, and so that
Oh, you got bonus points.
yeah.